Welcome to the Plumbing Marketing Guy podcast, hosted by Eric Keith. Throw a wrench in your competition. In this podcast, you'll learn how to better market your plumbing company and make more money. Get a steady flow of new customers. The Plumbing Marketing Guy podcast. And now, here's Eric Keith.
Hey guys, this is Eric. Here with me today, I have Kelly Myers. He is a Google certified professional, and I've got him here in the office today to do an interview to tell you guys more about Google Ads and what Google Adwords is. Thank you, Kelly, for coming today.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
All right, and we're just going to talk about having Google Adwords for plumbers and how it could be useful to them and how they could maybe better their ads online or get more customers. How are we going to do that? So I guess one thing we could start out is explaining what is Google Ads. What is Google Ads, Kelly?
Well, Google Ads are, and there are a lot of different names for it. People call it PPC or SEM or, paid search marketing. It's basically the same thing. It's just like any other kind of advertising. It is actually paid advertising. It's not organic listings. You're actually paying to get the results that you're looking for. So with the Google results, everybody knows Google. Everybody knows how it works. So when somebody searches for your product or your service, and in this case with plumbers, when somebody needs a plumber, usually the first place they're going to go is either to their mobile phone or into their search box, and they're going to search for plumber in my location, whether it be Knoxville, Atlanta, Houston. They're going to search, basically, I need a plumber where I am.
Right.
And the beautiful thing about PPC is that if you want to start ads, you're going to show up today for plumber in my city right away. As soon as you get started, when somebody searches that, you've got the power to be the first person that pops up. And if it's an emergency, then that's kind of powerful. They're probably going to call one of the first two people that are on the list.
Right. So I could see Google Ads isn't just for the big company that's been around forever that has the budget to advertise online. It's also for the small guy to actually get business right away, just starting out, correct?
Yeah, that's one of the things that that Google wanted to do when they first started the whole program was empower people. They wanted to empower the little guy to be able to compete with the bigger companies. So, I mean, yeah, you do have to pay for it, and if there's a lot of competition, the ads may be a little bit more expensive. But, you can, the beautiful thing about it is you can set the budget to whatever you're comfortable with spending. And say if you decide you want to start small, I want to spend $500 a month and see what I get out of that. Now, I mean, it's probably not going to be as effective at that rate, but what you can do with that is once you see that $500 is making you money, then you invest your next $500 into that.
You scale it bigger.
You just keep making it bigger. So you've got the potential to compete every time that somebody does a search with whoever the big people are that are in your industry. But you may not be able to do that every time, but at least you can do it for a little bit to compete and then grow from there. Because people don't know when they do the search unless they just recognize the brand. Oh, these are the big guys and this is just a little guy. They're just looking for a plumber.
Right. So actually these people, the plumbers that are using it, they don't actually pay unless someone clicks their ad. So an interested prospect is the only people that they actually pay for, correct?
Right. The thing about pay-per-click is it's just, as the name says, it's pay per click. So you don't pay for showing up, you pay for when somebody clicks through to your ad. So the nice thing about it is even if they don't click it, they saw it. And we all know in advertising, eyeballs is where you want to be.
Impression, yeah.
Yeah, just getting the impressions. The more somebody sees you, the more they trust you, whether that's valid or not. But they do. If they see your name a whole lot, they assume that you're the people to call.
Yeah, brand recognition. We're building it without even paying for it unless someone is actually interested in our services right away and they click the ad. That's when we actually pay for it.
Right, so it's kind of doing double duty. Like if they do click it, you want people to click it. A lot of people think, well, I would rather them just see it and call without clicking through to save me the click. But you really want somebody to click it because those are the people that need you right then.
Right.
And with Google Ads, the nice thing is that also, as long as you're using it right and you're using the call extension, then it also shows your phone number. And we're finding that a lot of people will call without even clicking on the ad, they'll just use that number that you put on there, and that's a Google supplied number, so that you can track it also. And that's the other side of it. It's beautiful because you can track so many things. If you're willing to invest in into tracking the conversions, tracking the phone calls, then you can know exactly what you're getting out of your investment.
Right. One thing I like to tell all the plumbers on my site is to have 3 listings on one Google page result page. And one way they can do that is having one ad in, the Google ads that are listed at the top or the sides. They have one listing in the organic search results, which you get there by using SEO. And then you have a listing in the map section, and you get there through local SEO, the Google local, and creating your ad and getting it higher there. So that's you have 3 ways of people can contact you by doing one search.
Yeah, and the even better thing about that is if you're on that page 3 times, there's only so much real estate.
Correct.
On a search results page before somebody has to start scrolling down and going to the other pages. So if you've already shown up 3 times, that's 3 places that your competitors didn't show up.
Right, you're crowding them out.
Right.
Just by you showing up 3 times on one page. So I see that as very valuable, yeah.
Absolutely. And the more somebody sees you, just like we already said, the more that they come to think, okay, these guys know what they're doing. These are the people I'm going to call. Because, it worked for McDonald's for the last 40 years or whatever, right? They just repeatedly hit you with their advertising, and you just assume, or any company. Advertising is extremely, extremely powerful. It can be a little bit scary getting into it because everybody's afraid to spend money because they don't want to lose it.
Right.
And advertising, unfortunately, is one of the budgets that everybody always cuts when times are hard.
Right.
But Henry Ford said,
yes, I love it.
When you stop advertising to save money, is like, I forgot.
I knew it was a good quote because I knew that he had that quote, and I just remembered it always.
Is it when you stop advertising to save money is like stopping a watch to save time?
Yes, yeah.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. So on the keyword auction, how does that work? Is it just simply an auction? What's the deal? How did Google price those ads?
Okay, so here's how it works. Every time somebody searches, and we'll say what we did previously. We'll go with plumbing in Houston, just for instance.
Okay.
All right. So what people are typically going to type, they're going to type in plumbing Houston. And so when they do that, that's what we call a search query.
Okay.
So, when they type in that search query, Google is going to match that up for all the possible competitors in that field. So it takes the relevance of your ad and your keyword and compares that with your bid, which is how much you're willing to pay per click, and it puts those factors together, and whoever's got the highest rank in that case is one that is going to get the number 1 placement. So when you're bidding on this, and we'll talk about bidding in a second, but every time that somebody does a search, it's calculating all this stuff instantaneously. And that's what determines who's going to show up in rank 1, 2, 3, and then on the sides 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and so on. So, and that happens every single time. There's never a point where it's just like, okay, you're number 1, you're number 2, you're number 3. Like you might show up in first position on this query when somebody searches, and the next time that they search, you might show up in position number 3. So in that case, you've got an average position of 1.5. So it's going to vary every time, and it just depends on all the factors that are going on in Google right now.
Okay. Now you mentioned a lot of terminology that just now that I think some plumbers probably won't know, and you probably just spoke a different language to them, and they're going to be completely lost on what you just said. How about we go over some terminology real quick?
Yeah. Okay. So one thing that people will talk about a lot are CPC, CTR, impressions, that sort of stuff. So just to give you a real quick crash course on it, CPC is cost per click. So, and that's related to your bid and all the stuff that we just talked about, the auction. So the CPC, or the cost per click, is the actual amount that you're paying on average for a click. So
Houston Plumbing is probably $10.
Right, and like because it's an auction, every time it could be different. You might pay $10.50 for it this time, $9.50 for it the next time.
Right.
But the number in Google tells you this: on average, you paid $10 per click for it.
Right. Okay.
So, and that goes in with your bid, which is the other thing that we talked about. And the bid is you're telling Google what's the maximum that you're willing to bid on it. And there are different bidding strategies, and we won't go into those. The most basic one is just that. It's the maximum cost per click. So you're telling, say that we bid $20 on it.
Right.
What we're saying is like we're willing to pay no more than $20 for this click. Now you're not going to pay $20 on average for the clicks. That's just saying if the auction gets to the point that it's more than 20, I don't want to show up.
If all my competitors are paying $19, $18,
right,
you'll be willing to go up there with them.
Right.
You just don't want to go past 20. If they start getting into $25 a click or whatever, you don't want to even compete with that.
Exactly, and that gets confusing for some people. So, but you're not going to pay the maximum on your average CPC basis. It's going to be somewhere around half of that. But yeah, that's what the CPC is, and it's always on an average basis.
Okay.
So that's the CPC and bid. The next thing is CTR, which is click-through rate, and that's a really simple metric, and it's based on impressions versus clicks. And what an impression is every time that your ad shows up, that's an impression. So if the ad shows up on a page, if somebody's done their search query, they've searched for plumbing in Houston, and so your ad showed up so that it made one impression. Now, if somebody clicks on that, then that's a click-through. So the click-through rate is the impressions divided by the click-throughs.
Okay.
So that's on that case, if your ad shows up 100 times and it gets 10 clicks, that's 10% click-through rate.
So an impression is just when someone sees the ad but does nothing with it, and they just see the ad. That's the impression?
Well, an impression is they can still click it. It still gets an impression.
Right.
So an impression is just every time it shows up, whether they click it or not.
Okay.
And a click is when they actually click it, and that's the only time that you're actually charged. And the click-through is the resulting,
Actually, the process of it going through.
The percentage of how many people clicked it. And a higher click-through rate is almost always better. The only time it wouldn't be is if it's like something that's completely misleading.
Right.
So usually we want to improve our click-through rates as much as we can, and that's an ongoing process.
Okay.
The impression share is, and this is one that's really, really confusing for people, and I like to explain it right up front because it's really important, because if you're in the business and you're making money on what it is that you're selling, you want to show up every time somebody does that search, right? So if you're spending $1,000 a month and you're making $2,000 a month, but you're only getting 50% impression share, that means that when they're searching, they're only seeing you half the time. So that means you should be spending $2,000 per month, and you're going to be making $4,000 per month.
Okay.
So if you're profitable at the current amount that you're spending, and you're only getting partial impression share, and that's a column that's in the it doesn't default to show the impression share in the AdWords interface. You have to turn it on, so it's in the customized column section. But it's really important to keep track of that.
Okay. All right. How about the keyword or match type?
Right. A lot of people get really caught up on keywords, and the keywords are important, but they're really just a trigger. So our keyword that we've been using is plumbing in Houston. So with plumbing Houston, and this is where a lot of people end up blowing a whole lot of money because of the different match types that Google's got. There's what's called a broad match, phrase match, and exact match. And there's also expanded broad match, which we won't go into. But the reason that most people blow through their budgets in the first week or so without really making any money is that they don't know anything about match types, and they just put in their keywords, which we say plumbing Houston. So these guys don't realize that Google is matching everything that seems like plumbing and seems like Houston, and they're not just matching on those words. So Google will match that to probably 1,000 different things that are completely irrelevant to what you're doing. So if you can think of a synonym for plumbing or a synonym for Houston, which I don't know what that would be, but they're going to match it to anything that it thinks may be even closely relevant. And when people click on those things, they're not looking for what you're selling, so that $10 per click or whatever it is that you're bidding on it is just getting thrown away. It's just getting washed down the toilet. And that's where a lot of people have tried AdWords. They've gotten their little coupon in the mail, and they said, well, I tried it. I spent some money. It didn't work.
Right. So it pays to actually hire a professional that knows all these things and actually sets it up correctly where you don't lose as much money.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a plumber's profession is plumbing.
Right.
They're going to be really, really good plumbers. But, we don't expect them to be advertising experts or computer experts.
Right.
What you want is the collaboration between the two. We understand advertising, right? So,
Right.
I mean, we know all these different aspects and the default settings. The default settings in AdWords and most advertising campaigns are just horrible because, they want to make money. They want to get the money, and they don't know your industry. So it's the collaboration between the advertising professionals and the plumbers, because the plumbers understand their business, and as advertisers, we need to understand their business as well so
Right.
that we can make it more profitable. And, you don't want to have to sit down and learn all this stuff because, education costs money, right?
Right.
So let's pay somebody else that already knows what they're doing. You don't, just like if you're a plumber, you don't want somebody working on their own plumbing.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't expect you, having no experience in plumbing, to go, fix your own plumbing and, something really that could flood your house. You wouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. And it's probably the same exact thing. And I've actually tried to work on my own plumbing a few
Right.
times, and I've screwed it up royally.
Yeah.
Trying to fix busted pipes and everything, and you're just worse off than you were. And then you've just thrown all that money away that you spent trying to fix it, trying to save money.
Right. Okay. How about the average position?
Right. The average position is, that's kind of self-explanatory, but it just means that, like we said before, if you're in first position this time, you're in third position the next time. You might be in fourth, might be in second. It averages where you were, and that's based on where you try to bid to come. So if you want to average, say you want to show up first most of the time, you're hoping for like an average position of 1.5. You're going to try to get that either by raising your quality score or increasing your bid.
Okay. And we already talked about the search query. We talked about the bid. How about the quality score?
The quality score is one of the really, really good, nice features about AdWords that allows the little guys to be able to compete with the bigger people, because you can actually rank first and pay less than other people based on your quality score. And the factors of the quality score are your click-through rate, your landing page relevance, and your just overall experience. And Google takes all these things into account when they calculate your quality score. So they've already gone to your landing page, and they're looking at it to see how closely your landing page mirrors what your ad says, and how closely that's related to the search term that you're bidding on, the keyword. Mm-hmm. So if all these things line up very well, and you get plenty of people that are clicking your ad, and of course starting out you're probably not going to have a great quality score. It's probably going to be average, low to average at best, and over time it's going to keep building. So the better your ads perform, the actually the less you're going to have to pay for your clicks, because with a better quality score, it takes your bid, and to get the higher positions, when your quality score is higher, your bid actually becomes lower. Well, we don't bid less, but it actually charges less because we don't need to bid as much. We don't hit that maximum CPC thing again. So like with a really, really great, strong, high quality score, if you're just a little guy but you've really, really honed your ads the way that you should, then you might have a 7, 8, 9 quality score, and it's going to drive your costs way down. And you're actually going to be paying less to be in the first position than your next competitor, who might have like a 5 quality score and hasn't really worked their account or their ads the way that they should have. And they're going to have to pay a whole lot just to be competing with you.
So is that another reason maybe to hire a professional to help get your quality score better?
That may be the number one reason, honestly. Because like if you can spend less and make more, that's the goal, right?
That's the goal, yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of the point of quality scores, so that we can improve our quality scores by having a better ad, a better experience, and it's all about the experience for the customer. That's what we're all striving for. If you're in business, you want your customers to have a good experience, and that begins with their search. So, and that's what Google's looking for as well. And if Google feels like that you're giving your customers the best experience, then you're gonna get to pay less.
Yeah, and in fact, actually talking on about the customer experience, one way we can do that is customizing the landing pages to the actual ads. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people don't realize that has such an effect on it, but it does. It's a major factor in the quality score. So with your plumbing Knoxville or plumbing Houston or plumbing LA, whatever, you want to drive those people to a page that's specific to the keyword term that they are searching for. So what we would do is create really tight ad groups.
Yeah. So for example, if my toilet is overflowing, the whole house is stopped up, I'm needing a plumber ASAP. I jump to my phone, I just type in drain cleaning Houston, and whatever ad pops up, I click, and it goes to just some homepage of some plumber. That wouldn't be as effective as if I typed in drain cleaning Houston, click the ad, and it goes to a drain cleaning page with a phone number. Is that correct?
Right, exactly. If you type in drain cleaning and it takes you to an ad that just says plumbing, and then it takes you to just a plumber's homepage, that's not nearly as relevant as if somebody types in drain cleaning and you have an ad that says drain cleaning, and then it goes through to a page that says, hey, we do drain cleaning.
Right.
That's a great experience, because that is exactly on every step of the path exactly what the searcher was looking for.
Right, exactly. So that's one way we can actually also get better conversions, and actually, since we're already paying for the ad, they may click on it and see that, hey, I was expecting a drain cleaning page, and since I didn't get it, I'm going to go back and find another one that, they may keep going till they find a drain cleaning page and call the first person that had a tailored landing page to their search. Is that correct? Yeah?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So, the more relevant you are, the better chance you have of landing that client or customer.
Now, I know you've gotten many questions and somewhat, I guess, complaints about the billing of that Google has. How does their billing work?
Yeah, people just don't always understand it, so it's just a lot of questions. It's not necessarily maybe they complain about it sometimes because there's like, well, can't you do it differently? I'm like, well, you don't really get charged monthly, which is what a lot of people want. With the Google system, they set up what's called a billing threshold.
Okay.
So when you first start your advertising, so let's say we set our budget, and we haven't really talked about budget, and that's one of the ways that you control your cost is because the Google system is set up on a daily budget. So let's say I've got a budget, I don't want to spend more than $30 per day. So the way that you figure out how much you're going to spend per month is just divide that by 30 days or whatever to get how much you want to spend a day, and then you set your daily budget, and that's the only way to really control your costs on Google. And that's a pretty effective way to do it. So let's say that we set a $30 per day budget. We might accrue $28 worth of clicks. Say we got 3 clicks at whatever CPC that would be, and we got all these click-throughs. So we got $28 worth of clicks this day. On the next day, it might go over by a little bit. There might be a 10% overage or so. Mm-hmm. So it might get $32 that day. Well, when you first start out, since you're on a $50 billing threshold, because you've gotten $50 in those 2 days, it's going to charge your card that moment. Okay. And over time, that threshold will raise once Google understands.
And they trust you. And
once they trust that the card will take the charge, I guess.
Right.
So eventually they may cap it at $500. And so what will happen is, like, every day if you're going to get $28 worth of clicks, and it's going to vary. It could be 28 one day, 27, 32, 28, 24. So when you accrue at least $500 worth of charges, they're going to bill your card for that $500. And that's something that's kind of hard for people to wrap their minds around, especially when they're in accounting fields or whatever. So you have to just kind of realize it's on an accrual basis. You don't, even though you said maybe that you've got a budget of $1,000 per month, your card's going to get charged maybe twice that month for $500. But it's not going to just bill you for the full month at once.
Okay. So, yeah, some people, they just don't have the explanation. So they're just used to getting billed monthly for everything. Phone bills, their house payment, everything. So they just assume that they're going, Google's the same way. And then when they find out it's not, that's where it has that learning curve. They just need to know.
Right. It's a lot easier when you see it, like when you go to the billing page, the billing tab on that account.
Right.
It's a lot easier to understand it once you see it, because you see like on April 7th, you've got 24, April 8th, you've got 28, 25. And then you can kind of understand a little bit better with that. But yeah, that's the way it is. And it's not complicated. It's just not the way that most things work in business. So because all your ads always have to be charged to a card, and then if you're paying a manager, an ad manager, then they usually will bill monthly.
All right. Okay. I know the pay-per-click process. Something that if someone is to start their own ad campaign, what is the process they need to go through? We have that listed as, one, they need to do a keyword research. They need to find out what keywords people are actually searching for and what they want to show up for, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and a lot of people really, like I said before, they get really hung up on the keywords and they want to show up for all these keywords. And some of that can be overkill because usually it's about 20% of the keywords in a campaign that bring in about 80% of the revenue.
The 80-20 rule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And honestly, it holds true. You're going to have maybe 2 or 3 keywords that are going to be really your high traffic keywords.
Right.
And so I'm not saying to ignore all the others. What's beautiful about it is like once you keep working the accounts and you find out that there's patterns, and so you can start getting rid of things that people aren't looking for that are still triggering that keyword, and you can start adding things that are really, really working for you. Like if somebody's looking for emergency plumbing and you find that somebody's typing that in, then you can break that off into its own ad group, and you know that that's a really high value keyword. It may not be a lot of traffic, but every time somebody sees it, you get maybe 15% of the people that see that are clicking on it.
Right.
So then you want to focus on that one. And it's every time it happens, it makes money. So you want to be able to target that one specifically. But it's not going to be your high volume ones.
Right. Okay. Then we create the ad. That's actually the ad that they see listed in Google. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah, and the ad creation bit is one of the more important parts because, and it gets glossed over a lot and people don't really pay that much attention to it, but really your ad text is the most important part of your ad. If you got your campaign structure and all this sort of stuff, but if your ad doesn't get people to call, it's worthless.
Right.
You need to have a good, strong ad text, and I recommend having at least 2 ads always running at any one given time so that they can compete against each other.
A/B testing to see which one actually outperforms the other one, correct?
Yep, and you should always be testing. You should never stop testing. You should always have 2 ads running, and when you find a winner, you kill the bad one and start up another one.
Start another one.
Yeah, and you don't want somebody to get ad fatigue either when they are seeing the same ad over and over and over again that doesn't mean anything. So they need to see new stuff every once in a while, and Google likes to see it too.
Right.
So it makes you more relevant.
Yeah. And it keeps you up to date and fresh.
Right.
Then the third thing, they need to choose what landing page they want each ad to actually direct to and tailor that landing page to the ad and what the customer is actually wanting to see.
Yeah, exactly. Like we talked about a minute ago.
Yeah. Before they need to actually set up what kind of account do they need to actually get started with this?
Well, the account setup, that's one of the trickier parts of it. There's a lot of steps, and when you've done it a lot, it becomes second nature to you, but there's a lot of things that you want to set up correctly up front so that it doesn't just waste your money. One of the things that I like to do is make sure that you're using the search network only, and everything we've been talking about today, by the way, is just for the search network. It doesn't go into any of the display marketing, the banner ads, that sort of thing. That's another huge side of the ad process. But as far as search goes, you need to make sure that you're not putting your ads out there on the display network when you're just wanting to do search terms, because the default is to show ads everywhere.
Oh, okay. So when they create their AdWords account, they need to set up the actual account to do just the search network.
Yeah, each campaign needs to be specific because, like I said, the default settings will spend your money really, really fast, because display ads, if you're not using them right, are just a good way to waste money.
Right.
Now, when you really hone in on them and you use them properly, then they're amazing.
Right.
But right now, you need to just focus on search, because search is where it all begins.
Right. So does Google AdWords have built-in tracking, or do we just use Google Analytics?
It syncs with analytics, so everybody should have some sort of analytics on their website, and 99% of people are using Google Analytics. So that should be linked in there somehow. And what AdWords will do, you can go in and link your AdWords account to your analytics, and so they can talk to each other. So you know exactly which keywords are getting what kind of conversions and bounce rates.
Right.
And that'll import the bounce rates directly into AdWords, so you know if somebody's using this keyword, if they're staying on your page or if they're immediately leaving.
And something I just talked about in the last podcast was actually implementing call tracking. And we talked a little bit before this podcast about, some campaigns that we're doing together on call tracking. How's that benefit actually tracking the phone calls?
I mean, to me, it means everything. I love the call tracking aspect of these kind of businesses, especially with a service business. So many times people don't want to spend money, or they are spending money and they're being successful, but they don't know where the results are coming from. And so even if they're advertising here, you can't show them the value of what you're doing. On my end, as a manager,
right.
If I can't show them the value of the phone calls that they're getting, then it's hard for me to justify what they're spending.
Right.
So it's good for both parties. I mean, with the call tracking, it's a little bit, it can be a little bit cumbersome sometimes to set it up. And that's what people, I think, are more afraid of than anything. It's not the cost of it, because it's usually not that expensive. But it just allows you to be able to see exactly where your calls are coming from. Right. And I think that is immeasurably important. And
some people actually call without even clicking through to the website. Is that correct?
Right. And that portion of the call tracking is built into the AdWords interface.
Okay.
So as long as you're using the call extensions, then what Google does is assigns a random number to the ad. So if somebody doesn't click through the ad to go to the website, they just see the number and they call it, then Google's going to track that for us. And that's awesome, because you know exactly which calls have come through. But when somebody does come to the website, I really highly recommend putting call tracking on the website also, right, so that we can track which keywords drove them to call once they got to the website. Because then we can really, really hone in on which keywords are actually making us money.
Oh, okay. All right. And then we launch our campaign, and then we monitor our performance to see which keywords do well, which don't. Then we do a campaign assessment and actually see, hey, this ad is not working. We need to get rid of this one. Let's replace it with this one. And then we analyze it and give you feedback. And it's basically the process that we go through. Right, Kelly?
Right. Yeah. I mean, they just need to be worked. Any account needs to be worked on a regular basis. Your testing never needs to stop, and you need to always be expanding your keywords and adding negative keywords, which is something else that we didn't talk about. Was the negative keywords, which are when you say that a lot of people will go online to look for jobs, right? So you might want to, and this is one of the first things that I always negative out. And we didn't talk about negative keywords, but a negative keyword means that, all right, if somebody's searching for this, I don't want to show up specifically.
Right.
So in this instance, I would put in a phrase match of jobs. So,
plumbing jobs in Houston.
Right. So if somebody typed in plumbing jobs, then our ad wouldn't show up, because we don't want those guys clicking on our ad, charging us $10 for them to...
Unless you were actually wanting to hire...
Right. If you were...
plumbers, and then you would want to maybe have an ad for...
Right. And if that were the case, I would set up a unique ad group for that,
Correct.
just targeting plumbing jobs. Yep. If you're looking to hire maybe 2 or 3 people or so.
Okay. Well, that wraps up the interview with me and Kelly. If you're thinking that you want to get started with Google Ads and you think this would be a good fit for you, well, you can go ahead and start. You can have a Google certified professional, Kelly himself, work on your ads. If that's the case, just head on over to plumbingmarketingguy.com and you could get started there. Thanks, guys. Bye.
You've been listening to the Plumbing Marketing Guy podcast. If you are interested in learning more about how to throw a wrench into the competition, then go to plumbingmarketingguy.com. There you'll be able to find more ways to market your plumbing business and make more money. Till next time, this is the Plumbing Marketing Guy signing off.